Hi, this is Jean Joh, broker and owner of Perisson Real Estate, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Perisson Pulse. For today, I'll be talking about a question that has been coming up a lot more recently for me, and that is the question of, do I have to have an agent? So this is a question that will come up for me with potential buyers who are coming to maybe one of my listings and we're at an open house or we're doing a showing. And so we'll be talking and a buyer will come up to me and say they don't have an agent that they're being represented by. Personally, I do make it a practice to not actually represent both sides of a transaction. I have done so a handful of times over the course of my career, just in those times where it makes sense to do so. So it could be a tenant landlord situation or a friend situation or some kind of a special case where it makes sense and it's best for my clients to be able to do that. But for the most part, I don't. And so then the question turns to, at that point, I'll offer that I can actually refer them to an agent who would be able to represent them on a listing. I think this is a curious one because I've had times when I will go into, well, someone will come into my open house and they'll, without looking at the property, say, I don't have an agent. Would you represent me on it? And my response always to that is, why don't you go see the house first? Why don't you take a look around? Let me and see if you even like it before we open up this discussion. So that's one of the things that if you are a consumer and if you're thinking about going out to an open house, maybe it's better to hold off a little bit to see if it's even something that is attractive to you as a property. So there's that. Once they go through the property, then it's, well, I don't have an agent. Would you represent me? And as a matter of course, like I said, I generally try to keep away from situations where I try to minimize situations where I am representing both parties. And there is definitely an increased liability due to that. I think it's difficult to fully represent a seller and fully represent a buyer because for a seller, I'm looking for the cleanest offer, least contingencies, highest price, obviously. And for my buyer clients, it's going to be the opposite, where I'm going to look for, the best price, meaning a lower price if possible, and with as many protections as possible. So trying to advocate for both sides fully is a little bit difficult. So having said that, though, then the next question that I've been getting is, do I even have to have an agent? And that's the question that I thought would be really good to go into. I've had good conversations with people about it. And I had one gentleman come into one of my listings a few months back and he said, well, I don't think I need a buyer's agent. And I said, well, here are some things that we do, and it's much more than just writing an offer. And so I talked with him. It was a little bit quiet of an open house at that one. So I was able to talk with him and I explained for about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just a little bit of an overview of what I do for my clients as a buyer's agent. And at the end of it, he said, yeah, that makes sense. It seems like, there's a lot that a buyer's agent does, but I don't think I need a buyer's agent. So I was like, okay, well, that's your choice. And, it's up to you what you do. But that's a question that I have, again, been kind of mulling over. What are the best ways to really explain what a buyer's agent does? So with that, I'm going to go ahead and launch into my presentation. So the first thing that I would note is that with this question that has been coming up and, really forcing us, which is I think is a good thing, to be able to identify and to show what is our value, why are we asking for the fees that we're asking for, and I think what is it that I offer also individually as an agent to my clients. So it's a lot of soul searching for people to really get that defined. It's something that we've always wanted to do and that I always try to think about as my own value proposition. But it's, I think, a discussion that is coming up more and more in the realtor community. California Association of Realtors, CAR, actually came out with a list of 167 things a realtor does for their clients. And going through that list, it's like, oh, yeah, we actually do a lot. Not all 167 things apply to every transaction. And I think that's one way to look at it, is that there are so many different things that could happen in each transaction. Each one is unique. Every client is unique. But it was telling that there are actually this many, over 100 items, 167 items that they were able to come up with. So I thought rather than just have a list, I thought it would be good to go through what are the steps in the buying process and then talk a little bit about what are the ways in which having your own agent and your own advocate for you, how does that benefit you as a buyer? And I think even if you're not thinking about buying in the near future, if you're more geared toward the seller, I think it's also instructive for the sellers to understand what is the benefit of a buyer having their own agent. I think that is something that would be that you can kind of see here as well. And I'm hoping that this will be something that will be useful for those who are watching. So one of the first steps, obviously, in the buying process is finding the right home. So searching for a home. This is something that definitely has gotten easier to do without an agent. There is the multiple listing service, the MLS, which into which the listing agents will put the listings, new listings, and those get syndicated out to a variety, to thousands of websites, including some of the bigger ones that you may be familiar with. So there are cases, and we also can do it's easy enough to set up a search. Buyers can set up their own search. So there's a lot that can happen there. The thing that the way in which a buyer's agent can help you is, first of all, giving you, helping out in terms of additional access to the multiple listing service. There are also within even our MLS, we have a members only portal in which agents who are doing a coming soon, something that is on the way, not quite ready yet. There's a way to be able to enter that into the members only portal of our local MLS. And there's also a way in which case there are some cases where a seller doesn't really want to go to open market for privacy reasons, for a variety of different reasons. Those also get put into the members only. So it's a members exclusive, it's exclusive listings that are for the sake of the agents who have subscribed to the MLS, to the local MLS. And so that's an advantage that you may be able to see if you have a buyer's agent who's looking out for you. There's also just there are buyers, I'm part of different networking groups, and sometimes, in the middle of talking, I may be able to get a little bit of a head start in terms of finding out which listings are coming up. There is in place for our National Association of Realtors what's called a clear cooperation policy, where if you have a sign or if you talk to somebody about a listing, you do need to enter it at least into that members only part of our MLS. So there is that. So it's not always a large head start, but it may be even a few days or so that you get insight into that. The other way in which a buyer's agent can help you is to help their buyers is to be able to look at the criteria, to be able to provide hopefully some insight into the neighborhoods that they're looking in, different ways to evaluate a home and figure out what is the best, what makes the most sense to meet your real estate needs. And so having an advocate on your side to do that is there. Buyer's agent can also do touring, which we have in San Mateo County, we have what's called a broker tour. That's like an open house for agents. And so they have the ability, because a lot of times we're busy on the weekends, we have the ability, if I have a buyer that's looking in a specific area, now I have an open house available that I can go to during the week and be able to evaluate it. I actually have gone through homes and am doing them even now where I will preview a home, take a video of it and put it on a private, like a YouTube, make it available privately via YouTube, just for my clients, and be able to preview it so that they don't waste time, to help be able to save time for them. So there are a variety of different things that I can do, or that your buyer's agent can do for you in terms of searching for a home, evaluating it, maybe eliminating certain things that don't fit your needs. So it's, even though the internet has made things easier in some sense and more accessible, and I have to say, I'll be the first to say, there are times when my clients who are looking actually send me listings that they see because they're only focused on that one, right? And so they'll be faster than me, and that can happen. But I hope that, I'm able to, I believe that I can provide more, more value than just the listing itself. So in conjunction with that is what I was the second step here, which is the market research and disclosures review. So being able to evaluate the market, what's going on in the neighborhood, what are the market trends, what are the comps from previous months, as well as what we're expecting moving forward. Having some conversations, which I'm constantly in conversations with agents in throughout the neighborhood, throughout the area, where we're talking about the market and what are we seeing among buyers and sellers and what are the trends. And those are things that you can't necessarily get just from Googling it, right? A lot of times what you'll see in terms of statistics is going to be only looking backward because they have to base it on data, right? And so things that have sold recently are indicative of what the market was doing maybe 1 or 2 months ago, or even more in some cases. And so having that market research and market knowledge that will hopefully be a benefit to a buyer. A disclosure review. So in our area, the sellers generally do provide upfront a full disclosure package, including inspections. We are not inspectors, and so there are certain limits to what I can do, and I do always encourage my buyers to read the disclosure package on their own. But what I can do is help to kind of guide them through that, point out any red flags that I do see additionally, just to make sure that they're not missing anything. And this is really crucial to be able to do. I was talking about this with one of my networking group members, one of my colleagues, and she told me a story of when she was representing buyers, and then they went to they were preparing, going through the disclosures, and found a situation where the inspection reports were not as detailed or didn't feel up to the quality that she was comfortable with. And so she suggested that let's go ahead and try to get our own inspections done. Sure enough, in that process, what happened was that the foundation had that the inspector called out some potential issues with the foundation. My colleague actually called a structural engineer to come and do a foundation inspection, and they found well over $100,000 worth of foundation work that needed to be done. So they were able to, negotiate through that and figure that out. And she was saying that the seller's agent actually thanked her for catching that, because if the buyer had moved in, started any work, and if that had caused a problem in the future, that would have been a big problem for all parties involved, right? The buyers would not be happy. They may try to come back to the sellers or the agents involved and try to see if there's a resolution, and that would not have been a great situation. So that's just a great example, and it's very recent, great example of one way in which a buyer's agent can really help guide through the disclosure review, help maybe point out things that a buyer may have missed. And it's really easy, even as an agent, to not get every single detail, because it's a big package, couple hundred pages at times. Just the inspection report can be 40, 50 pages and whatnot. So being that extra set of eyes to help you through, and especially for those who are first time buyers and not really knowing what to look for, there's real value to being able to help with that. The next step is submitting successful offer. So we've found the right home, done the market research, feel comfortable with the numbers that we're looking at, gone through the disclosures and feel comfortable with that. And now what do we do? Obviously, you want to submit an offer, and you want to submit a successful offer. This has much, much more to do than just being able to know how to fill out the contract. I'm going to back up and say, even filling out the contract is something that is not that easy. When I first started real estate in 2008, the contract was 8 pages long. The residential purchase agreement, which is the offer, was 8 pages long. Currently, it's 16 pages long. And so that is doubled in, I can do easy math. So it's doubled over just a matter of 16 years. And it's a legal contract. It is something that we try not to change on our own. We very minimally change anything on there, or almost never change anything within the contract itself, except for those lines that our attorneys at the State Association have deemed those are the negotiable portions. And so we try to keep it to that. So first of all, writing a good offer is important. Having the proper forms is important. And that's something that, if you have a professional realtor who knows what they're doing, would be able to submit that for you. In addition, the whole idea of submitting a successful offer, when you have, especially when you have a multiple offer situation, and even when you don't, is very important. In terms of when I'm about to, if my client is interested in a home, I will call, and most of my colleagues will do the same, where we will call the listing agent, have conversations with them. What are the seller's expectations? What is the activity that you're experiencing? What are any additional terms that might make it better for the seller? All of that. We bring all of that to bear. And I have to say that in terms of if you're in a multiple offer situation, and if there is a relationship that if your buyer's agent is professional, has a good reputation, there may be times when if you have two offers that are similar and you're in a multiple offer situation, the fact that your agent is advocating for you and able to present that offer well for you may actually make you the winning bid. I've actually had cases, and I know some of my other colleagues as well have had cases where we were actually not the highest bid, and we were not the, we were not necessarily even the third highest bid. But what happened is that because of that relationship, the agent would talk to their sellers, and of course it's the seller's decision who to work with. But they would speak with them and then be able to see, is there a way that maybe we can work with this agent, because we know that they're professional. We know that this is going to be a smooth process, and that we're going to be able to close successfully. And that really is important. Just writing an offer and hoping it sticks and hoping it closes, we don't work based on that kind of hope. I think we live with hope, but we don't work on hope. And so I think having somebody who knows what they're doing professionally is able to take you step by step through the process, work with the loan agent, work with the escrow officer, look at the preliminary title report, evaluate disclosures, all of that, and be able to package it in a way that will make you successful as a buyer. You really can't, I can't underscore that enough, how important that is. So it's much, much more than just filling out paperwork. If that's all we do, then definitely, and if that's all you need, then that's fine. And I don't think that, I agree that, we should not necessarily be, asking for we're not working for our compensation, but all of just the three steps that I've mentioned, there's so much time and energy and effort and relationships that are built up, and really trying to make sure that we understand what we're doing. That's important. Even a newer agent, even if they don't have all the experience, they have usually a team or a broker who is going to guide them through that. And you're going to, as a buyer's agent, the buyers will be able to capitalize on that and be able to leverage that experience and the relationships and whatnot to be able to be successful and to increase their odds of a successful offer. Of course, if you have an offer that comes in, it's all cash and it's 500,000 or whatever, much more than everybody else, maybe it won't matter to the seller, but in most cases, it does actually come to bear. Having having that relationship with an agent who can kind of evaluate things for you in terms of the comps, in terms of talking with the listing agent, can actually get to a point where also maybe it'll save you money, because you're not just kind of having to shoot in the dark. You're making decisions that are based on what we know, what information that we can glean. In the end, yes, sometimes it does feel like we're gambling with a lot of people that we don't know. We're putting in bids and we don't know who else is going to come in with what, but at least we'll get as much information as possible. And then we're able to guide you, that the buyers will be able to be guided to putting an offer together that has the greatest amount of success within their parameters. And so I think that's super important. So the next step is negotiating with the seller. This may occur at the process of the offers stage. If there is a multiple offer situation, or even if there's just one offer and it doesn't quite meet what the seller is looking for, it really does make sense to have an advocate by your side who has done this before, who will be able to guide you through those steps and be able to be your representative rather than having to just try to go through this on your own. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who can advocate for themselves. And so maybe that's not so much of an issue, but I think having that extra someone by your side who is focused on real estate in their career can be a huge plus for you. In addition to the offer stage, also after you have an offer accepted, if there's a contingency or there are different things that come up during the process of escrow, there's again, there is value to having somebody who can advocate for you, who can maybe come up with different solutions. That's one of actually my favorite things to do. Not always my favorite, because what that means is that if there's a problem that comes up, but what's really interesting, if there's some kind of an issue that comes up, to be able to come up with a solution. And sometimes thinking outside of the box, sometimes it'll require conversations with the other party, whether it be a listing agent or the buyer's agent, to be able to discuss that and come up with a solution that makes sense for all parties. And I think I love it when that comes together. And I'm all about, with Perisson and abundance, all about this whole idea of a win-win situation being possible. And then there's the coordination throughout escrow. And so that's making sure that the process is smooth. There are many different steps that are involved. There's an appraisal if there's a loan, there's an appraisal that needs to happen. There is coordination with the loan agent. If you're in a condo, there's a coordination with the property management and trying to get all the information we need. There's a talking with the title company and also making sure whether a seller or a buyer that you have all the paperwork lined up correctly, especially if there's a trust involved or some kind of a special case involved. If anything comes up on the preliminary title report that needs to be resolved, going through all of that. There are just so many different factors. Inspectors, if there are inspectors involved, sewer lateral, which is common in our area, and being able to address those issues. Anything, there are just so many pieces that need to come together for a successful close. And again, this is why you want somebody who is a professional who knows what they're doing, because you have basically, I like to think of it as we're all on a team together working to be able to make this close. And being able as a buyer's agent also to coordinate with the listing agent so that they know what's happening along the way. Just all of those different steps need to take place. And when you're buying a home, it is a stressful thing, whether it's your first home or you've done many before. Obviously, it's more stressful if it's your first home. But there are just so many pieces that need to be coordinated. And that's something that is our job to do, and to be able to help guide you through that process, whether it be even as small as, how do I get my keys at the end of it? Just every little thing, to big things as well. What happens if the appraiser is trying to get in and they need access, and how do we provide information to them so that we make sure that their valuation is, as accurate as possible. So many different things that go into coordinating into escrow process and making sure that we close. And then finally, assuming that we get to close, there's the after the close. And, this is actually one of my favorite pieces of it, because I have built my business on referrals and on people who hopefully have come to know me, to like me, and to trust me. And I do not think of anyone as simply a transaction. We want to be able to, and it really helps if you have an agent who is going to follow up with you, who's going to make sure that make sure that you're able to settle in, that our buyers are able to settle in. Even from the seller's perspective, it's nice if the buyers have their own agent who is going to help address any issues or questions that they may have, or to be that, if there are things that need to be resolved, to be able to reach out to the listing agent to work on that together, but also just to have somebody support you through that whole after the close, and to be that advocate for you. And I have to say, the clients who come to me and who are, loyal and who've been working with me, when it comes to helping them find a home, to doing market research, to submitting the offers, to negotiation and coordination, no matter how much I want to say I treat everybody the same, I just don't. I mean, and it's not on purpose, but it's just the people that that have been loyal to me, I feel just as loyal to them. I think I'm a human being. And so, definitely I'm going to put in that extra effort for them. And then when I go to advocate for them with with my colleagues, with my fellow agents, I, will definitely be, I think there will be a little bit more of a fight in me for that. So with that, I wanted to two key takeaways about that is, first of all, it's all about relationships. One thing that, I've been in tons of discussions about, what are these changes that are going to happen? And, now you need a buyer broker form signed before you can show houses and MLS and all of that. And the conclusion that we come back to in almost every case is, it could be a good thing for us because it really takes us back to relationship. It really takes us to being able to talk with one another and being able to help advocate for our clients on a personal basis. It really makes a difference for those of us who've been in the business for a while to have a good relationship with our colleagues. It's always been the case, but now it's going to be even more so because we want to be able to, and so that's going to force us to do that. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good change that we're looking to. And secondly, the other key takeaway I would say is there's a story. I used to hear that it's Henry Ford, and as I was trying to look it up on the internet, I'm like, well, actually, it's just a story about a handyman or a tradesman, and then it's been attributed to a bunch of different people. So it's been attributed to being Henry Ford, or I think Benjamin Franklin, and a few other things. But the whole story goes that you had somebody come in and have to fix a big piece of machinery, I think, in a car factory. The way that I heard it, okay, is Henry Ford, and he's called in to help out because they're, in the early days, and they had a car factory, and a big piece of machinery broke down. Ford, or whoever it is, came in and tinkered a little bit, and voila, within 10 minutes or whatever, tapped with a hammer, and it all came back online. And the bill came in for $10,000. And so the people who were paying were perplexed because they're like, well, he didn't spend that much time doing that. And then so they asked him for clarification. He said, well, so tapping with a hammer, that's $2. And knowing where to tap is the $9,998. And I like to think about that in our field as well, that, being able to write an offer, does it take that much difficulty? Not necessarily. I think it is actually kind of tricky to write an offer well and to fill out the paperwork completely. But there's that. But and then all the little things that we do. Is it can we look up stuff online? Yes, you can do that. There's all of that. But really knowing where to tap. Knowing where to bringing the expertise to bear. Having a professional who is thinking about the market, reading up on it, talking to colleagues, engaged in it, looking at homes, all of that. I like to believe that really does bring a value that can be shared with clients. And then different agents, it will just depend on them. For me, one of the things unique about me is I've actually been called by my children's friends as well as my own agent colleagues, Mama Joe. And I'm like, okay, because I'm very motherly, for better or for worse. And so when it comes to my clients, I fight for my clients, as if they're my family. And that's one of the things that I will do. There are other things that I would go into, but this video is not really about me personally. But I think every agent has their own unique value proposition. And so, and again, bringing that all to bear, the experience, the relationships, hopefully that, people can see that there is a value to having an agent for you. So going back to that question of, do I have to have an agent? And again, this is for buyers. My answer would be No, you don't have to have one. There is actually no requirement that a buyer has to be represented by an agent. Uh, but it is really there's so much value to it. And I think even from a seller's perspective, from a seller's perspective, from a listing agent's perspective, I feel much more comfortable if I know that that the buyer for this property is being represented by somebody who knows what they're doing, and is going to be able to carry this to a successful close. So I think there is definite value to it. So it's not required, but it's definitely something to consider. So with that, I'm going to close out with a few announcements. I wanted to highlight again we're continuing on in the real estate and finance in the Golden Year series. Our next seminar will be on May 15th, and it's called Investing Wisely in the Golden Years. It will be via Zoom. Our speaker, Duncan Ng, will be speaking about different other options that people may have for investments as opposed to the traditional investment property, rental property. Just especially as we get into the golden years, as we grow older and more mature, and want to maybe not deal with tenants so much anymore. And that is also becoming a really challenging landscape here in California, as there are more restrictions and things with regard to investment properties. Duncan will be speaking about what are some alternative investment vehicles, such as Delaware Statutory Trust, otherwise known as DSTs, or opportunity zones, or some other things that you may want to consider. So I'm really excited about this seminar, and I hope that you'll be joining us for that and sign up to join us via Zoom. We will have, if you're not able to make it, rest assured, we will have that we will be recording that, and we'll be making that available on our YouTube channel. So make sure to check back for that. And then continuing on in our series, we have in July, I don't have the date set yet for that, but remodeling options for aging in place. Aging in place, AIP, is one of those things that people are more and more wanting to, stay in their homes, stay in their communities. And so I think this is a really important one. I do have somebody lined up talking about ADUs and the accessory dwelling units, and how maybe that may be an option for being able to stay close on your property in your neighborhood. And then August 17th, if you're in the area, please save the date for that. It will be from 9 a.m. to actually 12 p.m. in person. And so that will be Family Matters, Caring for Aging Parents, and then Estate Planning, both at basic and advanced class in September. And that will be, the basic ones will be via Zoom, and the advanced ones will be in person here in Millbrae. And then the time is coming soon for our ever popular shredding party. It's a shredding and e-waste recycling event, May 11th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Mills High School in Millbrae. There's a QR code here, and it is free of charge, but we are accepting donations to go to the Mills High School Annual Fund. My daughters both went to Mills and are doing very well, and the teachers there are great, the faculty is great, and have been so supportive. So even though my daughters have long since graduated, I've just made this will be our, next year will actually be our 10th event. So I'm trying to already thinking about how we're going to celebrate that. But registration is required, just to give us an idea of how many people will be joining us. If you're not in the area and you'd like to just make a donation, you're also welcome to do that. And you can go ahead and go to this website to do so. So that's it for this week's edition of Perisson Pulse. I hope that was interesting information for you, especially if you're a buyer who's kind of looking to who's thinking about these things and wondering, really sincerely, do I need to have a buyer's agent? Does it make sense that somebody should be paid for representing me? And I hope that was helpful, and also for even sellers, and to be able to see the value of the buyer being represented. So with that, there are definitely changes that we're looking towards. A settlement that between NAR and the other parties for the litigation that I did cover in another video, that actually has been filed for approval, and there has been preliminary approval. So if you're interested in what that is, I do have a video, so please watch that. But we are definitely looking at some changes in the coming months, and as they unfold, I will cover them. I'll try to cover them here, as well as other topics. If there's anything that you'd like to know about or like me to cover, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, because I'm really hoping that to be able to slowly build a library of information for all of my clients, my colleagues, and my community, fellow neighbors. So I hope that it will be useful for you. And if you if you do find it useful, and I really hope that you'll share with your friends and neighbors, and that you'll subscribe to the channel and continue to watch here again in the future. So with that, wishing all of you joy and abundance always, and have a wonderful week or weekend ahead. Thank you.